Today we're going to be working on exercise 15, creating a plant symbol library in Illustrator. As you can see, I've already started on step 1. I already have my title block set up and its corresponding layer, and I've created a new layer called Art, which is the layer that we're going to be working on. And if we look at our assignment sheet, we have to start creating symbols for all these different types of trees and shrubs and perennials. So I'm going to start by drawing the first tree symbol, and it's supposed to be 20 feet wide. So now that I'm in the art layer, I'm going to go ahead and use my ellipse tool, and I'm just gonna click once in the artboard. And since it needs to be 20 feet and we're at 1/8 inch scale, I'm gonna write in 20 for the feet over 8 because we're at 1/8 inch scale. And I want to make sure that the linked button, the constraint, is actually selected so that these guys are the same. So just let me do that again. 20 over 8. And that way it'll create a perfect symbol for me. Okay, there we go, and there's my 20-foot diameter circle. Now, I want to add some detail to this tree symbol. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the crosshairs that go in the center. And for that, I'm just going to use the line segment tool. I'm just going to draw a line that looks about right. And I'm just going to select that line, Control C for copy, Control V for paste, and just rotate that line 90 degrees. And then I'm going to select both of those lines, and making sure that align to selection is highlighted, I'm just going to align them to the center. It'll be my crosshairs for the middle. And it's actually, the line weight's a little bit too thick right now, so I'm going to make it just 1 point. And I'm going to do Control G to group. And now I'm going to select both the crosshair group and the circle, and again align it to make sure my symbol's right. Okay, that looks right. So now I'm going to add a little bit more detail to this line. And what I actually want to do is just create some crevices at the quadrant points of the circle. So I'm just going to take this ellipse and paste it a few times. And I want to make sure that these are aligned at the center. And for this one, I actually want it to cut into the circle a little bit more. I'm just creating these shapes because now I'm going to go and use my Pathfinder tool to cut off these pieces. So with the Pathfinder tool, I'm going to be using the minus front method, and you just have to make sure that whatever shape you want to cut out of your circle is actually in front of the circle, which is why we created the circle first. So I'm just going to highlight only the circle and the first ellipse, and I'm going to click minus front, and that's cutting out that corner there for me. Looks great. And I'm going to do that with each one of these. Now this one was sent to back, so I'm going to right click on it, arrange, bring to front, Do the same thing. And because I was working on this, actually my crosshairs are actually in the background now, but that's okay because for this tree I actually don't want it to have a white fill, so I'm going to go ahead and with the fill selected or active, I'm going to just make it transparent. And now I can see my crosshairs again. And just to give it a little bit more detail, actually for this, I want to make sure that I don't ever go beyond the stroke line that I set. So I'm going to select align stroke to inside, and I want to make that line just a little bit thicker. And then to add more detail, I'm going to go on object, path, and offset path. And I'm just going to preview this to see how it looks. And all I'm looking for is for the location of that vector. I don't really care about what the appearance of it is right now, because I'm going to change that later. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. And for this one, I'm going to make it into a thinner line. So basically for this symbol, it's just looking to make just like a little double line detail there. And I think that looks pretty good. The other thing I want to make sure that is that since I know that this is going to be a tree symbol, I don't want this thick line to be overpowering so that it doesn't allow me to see what's going on underneath of it. So I'm going to select those two lines that I created, and I'm going to switch the opacity down to 75%. That way, if I ever draw any kind of plants underneath of it, and let me just show as an example. Let's say this was a plant underneath of it. I can still see it. Whereas if this was 100%, I'd get that muddy black line. And in this case, it's not a big deal, but sometimes this line can cover up your center cross, and you don't really want that. So. Okay, at this point I'm pretty happy with my tree, so I'm going to go ahead and select all the geometry. I'm going to group it together, Control G, and now both the cross, the center cross, and the other line are just one group. And I'm going to go over to my symbols palette, which is right here, or you can also find it under Windows Symbols. And these are the symbols that are currently in my project. I actually want to clean this up and just delete all of them because these are ones that come by default and I don't need those. So I'm just going to trash them. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag this geometry right into this panel. And then the symbol options dialog box pops up, and I'm just going to call this Deciduous tree 20 foot. And the registration point, I want it in the center, and click OK. Actually, from this I can see now that it's a symbol. You can see that symbols have their own registration mark for their centers, and my center is not lining up with the symbol center, so that means I have to edit it. So I can just double click on the symbol, and I'm going to align. Actually, this is a group, so I have to go inside the group. Okay. Align center. There we go. And the nice thing about symbols is that now I can drag this symbol into my artboard anytime I want. And if I make any changes to the symbol in here, like for example, I want to make this red, then all of the symbols that I have on my artboard will automatically update to that appearance. And let's go ahead and undo that because I don't really want that to be red. But there's my first symbol. And also if I want, I can actually see this. It's in thumbnail view, but I can look at it in large list view. And this is useful if you've used a descriptive name for your symbols to be able to see right away which symbol you're looking at. Alright, in the next video we're going to continue working on our symbols and actually adding evergreen and deciduous brushes.